Hey there, welcome. You're listening to The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Just sorting through what's going on today. We saw Kamala Harris come out and give her first rally. They're calling it a campaign event. Does she even officially have a campaign? This is all so new. Oh, we're just getting used to this. So that's been the big dominant story, but an almost equally important concurrent story has been the hearings in Congress of Madam Cheadle, the now former head of the Secret Service, who has finally stepped down. Surprised it took this long. And my next guest is going to shed some light on it. Robert Caltabiano. He's a former U.S. Secret Service special agent. And a lot of questions here. Robert, I thought we all kind of had a good beat on what happened a couple Saturdays ago, but these hearings have introduced some new evidence, the possibility of multiple shooters or which one of the snipers actually took him down, and trying to get some answers on how he was allowed to set up for like 5 minutes or maybe even 20 minutes in the first place. So did things get more clear or more murky after these hearings, Robert?
Well, I think once we get through the political theater of yesterday, and it was very embarrassing for the Secret Service and the former director, we do have a lot more questions to be asked or to be answered. And I don't think we're going to get any answers anytime soon. Well,
the guy that's on before me on this station is Dan Bongino, a former Secret Service agent himself. And he says the most likely explanation for the guy being allowed to get up on a roof and set up and take his time sighting him in, and there's minutes and minutes of cell phone footage of him, is it's possible the federal guys thought he was one of the local guys. Does that make sense, Robert?
It could. I know Danny, matter of fact, took some of my cases as a new agent when I moved on. Yeah, it does make sense in certain ways, but then it doesn't. And I will tell you why. If you're an experienced agent, if you're an experienced law enforcement person, and also the planning behind it, everyone on the ground there should have known whether somebody was going to be what we call posted on that building. You should have been made aware through the meetings with local law enforcement and also the agents that were going to be on site there. And so if that was the case, they should have had that information. So I understand what you're trying to say or Danny's trying to say, but in my mind, no. If I was on the ground there, that would have been pointed out blank. Nobody's on that building, or we have somebody posted there. So again, that's a major, major flaw because I don't think the communication flowed very well between the federal government, the Secret Service, and the local law enforcement.
So we had in the audio from the shooting, there was 3 shots at the beginning, and then a volley real quick of 5 shots, and then a few seconds later, there was a 1 single shot. Do we have an answer for all of those?
I hate the word using assume, but I will assume that the single shot was one of our people taking out that shooter.
Like a double tap, or like the flurry already got him and then we're just making sure?
Now, they're very good at what they do, and I can't get into so many details, but if we had a single shot, my belief is that the sniper's taking out the threat.
So the flurry of 5 bullets, is that all from the sniper, from the attempted assassin, I should say?
From what I was seeing on the videos, going through it over and over again, most likely, in my view, sitting on the outside, I would more geared towards that than the opposite.
All right, so Madam Cheadle steps down. Is there any chance she could be charged with a crime, or does she get immunity like a lot of government officials? Could she be sued civilly, or is her accountability done?
I think, sadly, her accountability is done. And the reason why is that she, as the director, is not approving these plans. So what will happen normally is the local office, wherever you're going to, will send people out, normally if they have the people, which I don't think they had enough, to do the advance work. And then somebody in managerial position in those offices would have to sign off on the security plans. And so the looking back would start from the field people, not from Washington itself. But the issue is the policies that are left behind. Even though she's left, is the policies of what she had put in place, and also the lack of what I would say resources needed. And if that doesn't change, And that's a very scary slope that we're really sliding down.
Well, listen, you have Secret Service experience. You're a veteran. And so your opinion matters more than most people on this one, because my wife made a comment on this. I've said something about this. Garrett, so many other people have looked at the detail that Trump had and asked themselves, why is there a little 5'4" chubby lady on the detail? I don't remember any 5'4" chubby women running along the car when JFK was shot, or rushing when John Hinckley shot Reagan. So this is a relatively new development in our observation. Does that strike you as odd too?
What strikes me odd is the slippery slope over the past, I want to say 15 years of the hiring process, and the lack of getting the best candidates for the job. That's the scary part. With what we saw with Trump, I don't know if that young lady was on his detail or she was somebody that was pulled in, what we call to stand post, to be a post stander on his detail. Again, it's the policies that have been put in place, and I'll keep saying it, is that when you lower their standards, you lower their training, unfortunately, you're going to get a mishap. And this one almost had catastrophic effects.
All right. Tell the guy where he can find you outside of the James Show on WBAP, Robert.
Well, you can find me at the Only in America and podcast. And, we keep praying that, we don't go through this again. And hopefully you and I can talk on better things the next time.
All right. Well, there's not a whole lot of great reasons to talk to a former Secret Service agent, but we'll try and come up with something.
You got it.
All right. Robert Caltabiano, former U.S. Secret Service special agent on The James Show. All right. More breaking down this story when we come back. It's The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there. Welcome back to The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I said it on yesterday's show. I will say it again. These are the best shows Dan Bongino's ever done. He's the guy that comes on before me. I've been a fan of his work ever since I saw him show up as a guest on Fox News. Feels like 20 years ago now. But, it was interesting to see a guy jump through the profession, the lily pads like that. And he must be one of those guys like Tony Romo. He just, whatever he does, he's probably pretty good at it. Not the best ever. I'm not saying he's like the Michael Jordan of broadcasting, but, he had a law enforcement career. He was on the Secret Service. He was in the CIA. He was with the NYPD. And then he started becoming a media figure, and he was a regular guest in the rotation on Fox News and some of their auxiliaries, like Fox Business and whatnot. And then he started his own podcast, which was doing okay. And then when Rush passed away, there was a whole bunch of people who tried to sort of fill in that gap on many stations, and he was one of the people who sat down in the few musical chairs left. And he's done a really good job with it since then. But since President Trump got shot, not Saturday, but last Saturday, he's been in a unique position because of his experience. Because there is no other radio talk show host that has been on a Secret Service detail before. I haven't. Most people that are hosting talk radio shows these days haven't done anything outside of radio. I have. I was a computer programmer for a couple years, but that was so long ago when I was in my 20s. I couldn't do that now. I'd have to start all over from scratch. So, some of us have our own little areas of expertise, and this one just happens to fit perfectly within his. And he has a real chance here to be a voice, to be an authority, where the rest of us, we just don't. And he's doing a good job knocking it out of the park. I invite you heavily to listen to some of what he's saying. And the reason I am saying that here to sort of preface this segment is when I say it doesn't mean as much, and it shouldn't mean as much. I'm more like you. I just have a whole bunch of questions. You and I are critical thinkers, and we can say, okay, how did a guy get 130 yards away on a roof from President Trump, long enough to set up and take some shots? Oh, the roof was sloped. Well, you and I, we don't have to have Secret Service experience to know that is a bogus excuse. Oh, well, we secured our perimeter. That must have been the other guys. No, that's not a legit excuse either. And so a lot of these questions still haven't been answered. We don't really get much accomplished at congressional hearings. It's not like anyone's going to get arrested or charged with a crime, or rarely do they get any answers. But it was nice to at least pull her out in front and have the questions asked to see what answers she gave. And so I thought there was a nice little smattering of a handful of questions here that I can't wait until all of these questions are answered.
Did the Secret Service use any drones for surveillance that day? So again, I'm not going to get into specifics of that day in itself, but there are times during a security plan that the Secret Service does deploy an asset like a drone.
There were reports that the shooter used a drone just a few hours before the rally start time. Is that accurate?
I have heard those same reports, and again, am waiting for the final report.
Do you know, if you can't answer the question, that's your answer, but can you answer this? Do you know, I'm not asking yes or no, but do you know if the shooter used a drone before the shooting?
That information has been passed to us from the FBI.
How many Secret Service agents were assigned to President Trump on the day of the rally?
Again, I'm not going to get into the specifics of the numbers of personnel that we had there, but we feel that there was a sufficient number of agents assigned.
There are reports that
Clearly
several
not.
agents assigned to the rally on July 13th were temporary agents not normally assigned to President Trump. Is that accurate?
What I can tell you is that the agents that were assigned to former President Trump are Secret Service agents that provide close protection to him, and that was what was actual on that day.
All right, Kimberly Cheadle, now former head of the Secret Service. That doesn't make you feel a whole lot better now, does it? How can a 20-year-old get on a roof, take time, and look, the longest claim I've seen is he had 26 minutes up there, 26 minutes of people pointing him out saying, hey, is this guy supposed to be there? He doesn't look like a cop. Is someone going to do something? And so now we're just figuring out who knew what when. However, doesn't make me feel any better that the radio communications were not saved. I think they're supposed to be saved from events like this, and no one can find them. Oh, that's interesting. So we may never get to the bottom of who knew what when. Yeah, that's not shady at all, is it? Nothing suspicious there. Move it along. All right, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227 if you want to comment on this. Coming up next, I'm going to talk with Anthony Russo. He's the host of the Truth Will Set You Free podcast. We're going to talk more about Biden dropping out. Will Kamala earn her spot, or will she be jettisoned for some better candidate? And if not, will her VP be? All kinds of questions swirling around. So stick around on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Homeowners, listen, I know when you have problems dealing with your home, it's already overbearing. Life has already got your responsibilities full up. Now you're going to add this to it? Well, the first thing you want is to call a contractor that's actually going to answer the phone. And then if they can't answer, they're going to call you back as soon as they can. And then if you have any questions, you can get someone on the phone to make sure that happens. And if you do schedule, make sure they show up on time, if at all. James Parker here for Paradigm Roofing. I met with the owner of Greg Hilton. He says that's the first thing he did. That's the first thing he wanted to do to set him apart from all the other people that are putting on roofs. Number one, answer your call, returning your call, showing up on time, making sure the work is all done and accounted for. And how does that accounting happen? Well, it's not an accident. We just don't say he's going to be accountable. There's going to be a full-time job supervisor on every project. So at your house is going to be one guy in charge specifically to bounce questions off of. And if you don't like the job he's doing, you have Greg's cell phone at the bottom of every contract. Transparent pricing and estimates. And this is to save you from playing Google roulette with your home. Call Paradigm Roofing, 972-542-7774, 972-542-7774. You go to paradigmroofs.com or 972-542-7774.